There are painful truths about life that most people would rather avoid. Truths that, once you see them, will burn away the illusions you've built around yourself. How many times have you convinced yourself that hard work always pays off, that people are fundamentally good, or that life is just a matter of luck? What if I told you those beliefs are exactly what keep you stuck in a cycle of disappointment and self-deception? The truth is harsher than you think, and it's exactly the kind of wisdom the Stoics embraced. They didn't sugarcoat reality. They saw through the games people play, the lies we tell ourselves, and the way we let our emotions and desires control us. Once you understand these lessons, you'll see through the masks, the manipulation, and the illusions that everyone else is still clinging to. Are you ready to wake up and finally face reality, no matter how uncomfortable it is? If you're ready to challenge yourself, to stop hiding behind comforting lies and embrace the truth that leads to true freedom, then consider subscribing. It's a commitment to your own growth, to seeking wisdom, and to discovering the strength to face the world as it really is. Lesson 1. People are driven by emotions, not logic. We like to think of ourselves as rational beings, making decisions based on careful thought and logical reasoning. But let's face it, how often do we actually make decisions like that? The truth is, most of the time our emotions drive us more than we realize. Emotions are powerful, sometimes overwhelming forces that influence what we do and how we see the world. They shape our actions, often before our rational minds even have a chance to step in. How many times have you made a purchase you didn't need or agreed to something you didn't want, simply because it felt right in the moment? That's emotion, not logic. Emotions aren't inherently bad, though. In fact, they provide valuable insight into what matters to us. It's how we respond to those emotions that makes all the difference. The Stoics, like Marcus Aurelius, understood this deeply. He reminded us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. What Marcus means is that while we can't control the emotions we feel, we can control how we respond to them. Emotions can be powerful guides if we learn to observe them without letting them control us. Instead of reacting impulsively, the Stoic practice is to pause, reflect, and then act. This doesn't mean suppressing emotions. It's about recognizing them, understanding where they come from, and using them as a tool, not a weapon. When you can do that, you'll find that your decisions become much clearer and less likely to be clouded by fleeting feelings. Emotions don't have to be an obstacle. They can be a source of insight and a tool for better decision-making. Understanding that most people are driven by emotions can also help you navigate social situations more effectively. In disagreements, for instance, people often aren't arguing over the facts. They're defending their pride or their ego. Once you see this pattern, you stop wasting energy trying to win the logical debate and instead focus on understanding the emotional drivers at play. The key is to develop the pause, the space between feeling and reacting. That moment gives you the opportunity to choose a response that aligns with your true values, not just a reaction to a passing emotion. It's this kind of emotional awareness that separates those who live on autopilot from those who live with intention. When you can master this, you won't just understand others more clearly, you'll understand yourself better too. Lesson 2. Everyone acts in their own self-interest. How many times have you been surprised when someone you thought was being kind or selfless turned out to have their own agenda? Maybe a friend offered you help, but later you realized they were just trying to win your favor or get something in return. It's easy to feel disappointed, thinking that people should act out of pure goodwill. But here's the truth. Everyone acts in their own self-interest, whether consciously or not. This isn't a criticism of humanity. It's just how we're wired. We all act based on what benefits us, even if that benefit isn't immediately obvious. Take a step back and think about it. Every action we take, every decision we make, is in some way motivated by our own interests, whether it's the desire for approval, personal gain, or even just peace of mind. It's not inherently wrong to act out of self-interest, but recognizing it allows you to better understand people and predict their behavior. A simple example of this is when someone offers you advice or help. On the surface, it may seem like a generous gesture, but often there's something more going on. Maybe they're hoping to gain your trust for a future favor, or they're seeking recognition for their kindness. It doesn't make them a bad person. It's just human nature. This doesn't mean you should approach life with distrust or cynicism. Far from it. It simply means you should learn to see things for what they truly are. Understanding self-interest doesn't turn you into a pessimist. It makes you a realist. You'll stop expecting people to act against their nature, and you'll start recognizing opportunities to align your interests with theirs. This makes interactions smoother and more productive, as you're no longer trying to change people, but rather learning how to work with them. Carl Jung said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." This is a powerful idea because it reminds us that recognizing the self-interest of others can teach us about our own desires and motivations. When we accept that people act based on their interests, we gain insight into our own behaviors. We begin to see where we might be motivated by self-interest as well, and that self-awareness is the first step toward personal growth. The danger comes when we expect others to act selflessly without understanding their motivations. Once you accept that everyone is driven by their own needs and desires, you can make smarter decisions, manage expectations, and build better, more honest relationships. It's not about exploiting others for your own benefit. It's about understanding the game people are playing and finding ways to play it to your advantage while remaining true to your own values. By doing this, you become more strategic, more aware, and ultimately more in control of your life. Lesson 3. Most people can't handle the truth about themselves. Let's face it, most of us aren't great at handling the truth about ourselves. It's uncomfortable. It burns. It forces us to confront things we'd rather not see. We all like to live in our little bubbles, surrounded by the narrative we've carefully constructed about who we are. It's much easier to maintain that story than it is to confront the uncomfortable facts. But here's the thing, the truth doesn't care about your comfort. It's not concerned with your ego or your image. The truth just is. Think about it. When was the last time someone told you something about yourself that you didn't want to hear? Maybe it was a critique from a friend or a colleague. Perhaps it was something you knew deep down but weren't ready to face. The natural response for most people is defensiveness. It's like an instinct. We quickly try to explain, justify, or deflect the criticism. Why? Because accepting that truth would mean admitting something we don't want to acknowledge. But the longer we avoid the truth, the more we limit our own growth. The Stoics understood this all too well. Marcus Aurelius, for example, was known for his brutal self-examination. In his writings, he often reflected on his own weaknesses and flaws, not to beat himself up, but to improve. He wrote, "How much trouble he avoids, who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does, but only to what he does himself." Marcus knew that growth required facing uncomfortable truths, even about himself. It's not about being perfect, it's about being honest. And when you can be honest with yourself, that's when real change begins. Most people avoid honesty because it requires vulnerability. It's much easier to stay in denial, to surround ourselves with people who tell us what we want to hear, and to protect our fragile sense of self. But this only keeps us stuck in the same patterns. If we never confront the truth about who we are, we can never change. It's a harsh reality, but it's a necessary one if you want to improve. The Stoics practiced a kind of brutal self-honesty. They weren't afraid to admit their faults, and they didn't shy away from confronting uncomfortable truths. They understood that without this self-awareness, they couldn't truly live according to their values or grow into the best versions of themselves. Epictetus reminded us, we cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them. In the same way, we can't always control what others say about us, but we can control how we respond to the truth about ourselves. Do we face it and grow, or do we run from it and remain stuck? When you stop running from the truth, you stop being a prisoner of your own illusions. You take back control of your life. And that's where the real power lies. It's not in being perfect, it's in being honest, vulnerable, and willing to change. Only then can you truly become the person you were meant to be. Lesson 4. Success will make some people hate you. Here's a bitter truth. As you start to rise, some people will begin to resent you. It's not because you've done anything wrong, but because your success forces them to confront their own inadequacies. It's like a mirror that reflects their lack of progress, and not everyone can handle seeing that. They'll start comparing themselves to you, feeling threatened by your achievements, and even resenting you for doing what they couldn't. This isn't about jealousy in the traditional sense. It's deeper than that. It's about the discomfort that comes when someone else's success highlights your own unfulfilled potential. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, understood this dynamic well. He wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." Marcus was constantly under attack. His reign was filled with wars, betrayals, and internal conflicts. Yet he focused on maintaining his inner peace, no matter how others reacted to his success. He recognized that resentment from others had nothing to do with him and everything to do with the insecurities of those around him. His wisdom teaches us that success should not be measured by the approval of others, but by our ability to stay true to our values and maintain peace within ourselves. You see, success creates a mirror. It reflects the insecurities, failures, and missed opportunities in others, forcing them to either confront their shortcomings or find a way to discredit you. It's uncomfortable for many people to face the reality that someone else is achieving what they couldn't. But rather than taking it personally, you can choose to rise above it. Understand that this behavior has nothing to do with you, but with the internal battles others are fighting. Carl Jung also delves into this idea when he said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." When you reach a certain level of success, some people will try to tear you down, not because they hate you, but because your success challenges their own self-image. They struggle to accept their limitations, and your achievements force them to confront what they haven't accomplished. Instead of celebrating your success, they react defensively. They try to minimize your achievements, discredit your work, or even undermine your value. The key is recognizing that their reaction is more about them than it is about you. So, what do you do when this happens? First, don't take it personally. People's reactions are reflections of their inner struggles, not your shortcomings. Second, keep pushing forward. The more you rise, the more you'll face resistance, but that's also a sign that you're on the right path. The Stoics remind us that success should never be defined by external validation, but by our ability to remain grounded in our own values. Your progress is yours to claim, and no one else can take that away from you. In the end, success isn't about making everyone happy. It's about staying true to yourself, continuing to grow, and not letting the negativity of others derail you. Lesson 5. Everyone is trying to sell you something. Have you ever had a conversation with someone only to realize halfway through that they were just trying to sell you something? It could be a product, an idea, a favor, or even just validation for something they've done. It's subtle, but it's there. We've all been there. Someone offering unsolicited advice, pushing a product, or buttering you up before asking for a favor. And once you recognize this pattern, you'll start seeing it everywhere. It's not that people are being malicious, it's just that every interaction is an attempt to influence you in some way. Whether they're aware of it or not, everyone is trying to sell you something. The Stoics were keenly aware of human behavior and understood that people are constantly trying to influence each other. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." He understood that we are constantly being influenced by others, whether we realize it or not. The challenge is learning to guard our minds, to be selective about where we direct our energy, and to be conscious of what we let into our thoughts and lives. When you realize that every interaction has an underlying motive, you stop being swept along by other people's agendas and start making intentional choices about who and what you allow to influence you. Now, this isn't to say you should become paranoid or distrustful. It's about being mindful. There's nothing wrong with helping someone out or accepting advice. But when you understand that everything comes with a cost or a hidden agenda, you start to make more thoughtful decisions about where you place your trust. You also become better at spotting when someone is manipulating the situation for their benefit. A colleague who's always offering advice but only when it benefits their position in the company, or a friend who always needs a favor but never returns the kindness, these are the people you need to be aware of. Recognizing when others are trying to sell you something, whether it's a product, idea, or even just their own self-interest, can be a powerful mirror. It shows us where we might be vulnerable, where we might be too easily swayed, or where we might be doing the same thing without realizing it. The more aware you are of how people try to influence you, the more you can step back and assess your own actions. Are you also trying to sell something, or are you allowing yourself to be influenced by someone else's agenda? In the end, the lesson here is about awareness. Once you see that everyone is trying to sell you something, whether consciously or subconsciously, you can make more conscious decisions. You don't have to be defensive or closed off, but you do have to be selective about where you invest your time, energy, and trust. Recognizing this dynamic doesn't just make you smarter in your interactions, it frees you to make better, more intentional choices in your life. Lesson 6. People will show you who they are. Believe them. It's easy to get caught up in the words people say, especially when they're telling us what we want to hear. We all like to believe the best in others, and often we're quick to dismiss the little signs that might tell us something is off. But here's the reality. People show you who they truly are, not through what they say, but through what they do. It's in the small actions, the habits, and the consistent behaviors that they reveal their true character. The tough part is that we often ignore these signs, hoping for change, convincing ourselves that someone will eventually grow up or come around. But the truth is, people rarely change, at least not in the way we hope they will. Their actions, however, are a constant reflection of who they really are. Think about a time when someone said one thing but did another. Maybe a friend promised to always have your back, but then didn't show up when you really needed them. Or perhaps a colleague said they supported you but was quick to throw you under the bus when it benefited them. You might have excused their behavior, told yourself it was just a mistake, or hoped that next time they would act differently. The problem is, this isn't a mistake. It's their pattern. It's who they are. And the sooner we recognize this, the sooner we can stop setting ourselves up for disappointment. We often want to believe the best in people, But we need to take a step back and judge them by their actions, not their words. Words are easy. Actions are the true indicators of a person's character. When we accept this, we stop falling for empty promises and start paying attention to the things that truly matter: consistency, integrity, and reliability. You might be wondering, what do I do once I see these signs? The answer is simple. Trust the patterns, not the promises. If someone regularly cancels plans or consistently lets you down, that's not a one-off event. It's who they are. When someone is rude to waitstaff or behaves poorly in situations where they think they won't be judged, that's who they are too. People reveal themselves through their actions, and by paying attention to those actions, you can save yourself a lot of time and disappointment. The Stoics understood the importance of self-awareness and the need to see the world and the people in it as they truly are. They didn't waste time hoping for others to change. They focused on themselves and how they could respond. This lesson is about empowerment. It's about recognizing the truth, no matter how uncomfortable it may be, and using that truth to guide your decisions. Trusting people's actions, not their words, allows you to build stronger, more authentic relationships and frees you from the pain of false expectations. Lesson 7. Comfort is the enemy of growth. It's natural to want comfort. We all seek it, right? After a long day, the idea of relaxing on the couch, zoning out to a movie, or enjoying a warm meal sounds like the ultimate reward. But here's the hard truth. Comfort is the enemy of growth. The moment you settle into what's easy, you stop growing. You stop challenging yourself. And in that stillness, your intellect, your emotions, and even your spirit begin to stagnate. We tend to think of comfort as a safe haven, a place to rest and recharge. But in reality, it's a trap. Comfort zones, no matter how cozy, limit your potential. When was the last time you pushed yourself, really challenged your limits, not just physically, but mentally or emotionally? It's easy to coast through life, avoiding discomfort, staying within familiar boundaries. But growth only happens when you stretch beyond what's familiar, when you embrace discomfort and face challenges head-on. It's in those difficult moments, when you're uncertain or struggling, that true growth begins to unfold. Growth requires discomfort. It requires pushing through the resistance that tells you to stay put, to stay safe. And though it may feel uncomfortable at first, that's exactly where the magic happens. The Stoics knew this well. Marcus Aurelius often reflected on how one should live with purpose, even in the face of hardship. He wrote, "At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work as a human being." This simple thought highlights the Stoic idea that we are meant to embrace the challenges of life, not avoid them. Even when it feels hard, even when it's tempting to stay comfortable, we must push ourselves to grow, to fulfill our purpose. For Marcus, growth wasn't just about achieving external success. It was about developing internal strength, and that strength only comes when we confront life's discomforts head-on. Think about it. Every time you step out of your comfort zone, you're building resilience, sharpening your skills, and strengthening your character. When you push through resistance, you become stronger, both mentally and emotionally. The problem comes when we settle into comfort and avoid the hard stuff. It's easy to stay in a job that doesn't challenge you, to remain in a relationship that's stagnant, or to keep taking the easy road. But doing so keeps you small. It keeps you from evolving into the person you're truly capable of becoming. Embracing discomfort doesn't mean seeking out hardship for the sake of it. It means seeking out opportunities for growth, even when they push you to your limits. Whether it's tackling a new project at work, facing a difficult conversation with a loved one, or trying something completely new, those moments of discomfort are the very things that shape you into a better, stronger person. you'll look back and realize that every challenge you faced was an essential part of your growth. In the end, the greatest growth happens when you step outside of your comfort zone. That's where the true magic lies, when you're willing to embrace discomfort and face the unknown. It's tough at first, but with each step, you become more resilient, more capable, and more in tune with your own potential. So the next time you feel that urge to stay comfortable, remember, growth doesn't happen there. Lesson 8. You're going to die, and most of your worries are meaningless. Here's the truth that most people avoid. We're all going to die. It's not a pleasant thought, but it's the one thing that's guaranteed for all of us. No matter how much we plan, how successful we become, or how much we try to outrun it, death is the ultimate end. Now, I know that sounds heavy. It might even make you uncomfortable, but bear with me, because once you truly come to terms with this fact, it changes everything. It's like a veil is lifted, and you start to see life clearly. The things you once stressed about, the little dramas and annoyances, suddenly lose their weight. In the face of mortality, what really matters comes into sharp focus. Think about how much time we waste on things that ultimately don't matter. Social media arguments, work drama, petty disagreements with friends or family. All of these things take up mental and emotional space. But when you truly grasp the reality of your own mortality, it's hard to keep sweating the small stuff. You start to realize that most of the things we get upset about are fleeting and insignificant in the grand scheme of life. Why stress over something someone said online, or an argument that won't matter in a year? It doesn't mean those things aren't real, or that they don't hurt in the moment. But once you accept that your time here is limited, you start choosing where to spend your energy more wisely. Carl Jung also emphasized the importance of embracing mortality in his work. He said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." Part of becoming who you truly are is realizing that your time is limited. This realization pushes you to stop procrastinating, to stop waiting for the perfect moment, and to start acting in alignment with your deepest values. It forces you to confront what's truly important and to prioritize it, because you know that the clock is ticking. The idea of death can be unsettling, but it's also liberating. When you acknowledge that your time is finite, you start to live more authentically. You stop wasting time on things that don't bring value to your life. Instead, you focus on relationships that matter, on work that fulfills you, and on experiences that align with your true self. You begin to realize that life is too short to live in fear of judgment, to chase after fleeting accomplishments, or to hold on to resentments. As the Stoics would argue, embracing death isn't about being morbid. It's about gaining clarity. It helps you cut through the noise and focus on what's truly important. It's a call to live intentionally, with purpose and passion. When you truly grasp the reality of your own mortality, everything else becomes less daunting. The small stuff. It fades into the background. What remains is the deep understanding that the time we have here is precious, and that ultimately is what gives our lives meaning. So, next time you find yourself stressing over something trivial, remember, you're going to die. And that, in itself, is the greatest reminder to live fully right now. Remember, life is short, and the only certainty is that we won't be here forever. So, stop letting the small stuff steal your peace and start focusing on what truly matters. Embrace the truth, live with purpose, and make every moment count. If this resonated with you, check out the next video on the screen to dive even deeper into Stoic wisdom. Thank you for being a part of Stoic Journal. Let's keep growing.